Thank you, Dr. Cabanella, for your kind introduction. So today I'm going to give a brief overview of our research effort to develop optimal, let's see here, okay, develop optimal nutrition for promoting healthy brain aging in dogs. Why we do this? Because if you look at aging impact on the brain, there are three possibilities for the brain aging in senior. So let me give you the first bad news. Okay, bad news is some of them will develop MCI. I hope you still remember MCI because Dr. Obi gave a great talk yesterday on the brain aging. And another group will develop dementia or cognitive dysfunction syndrome. So those are two conditions which not treatable. It's incurable, just like Alzheimer's disease. But good news is that there are also some senior dogs that actually become successful ager. That means they actually retain the relative normal cognitive functions in the senior age. But that's a hope. That means dementia or MCI is not inevitable for aging. And if you do something right, if you do everything right, you may retain your learning and memory and brain functions in your senior age. So that's the reason we start the efforts 20 years ago, and we start, okay, let's look at how we develop a nutrition solution to promote healthy brain aging so that we can push most of dogs into this successful age group, right? Reduce the risk of dementia and MCI. So this slide pretty much summarizes our nutritional strategy. So if you think about how the aging influences the brain, so there are some physical changes, there are some metabolic changes. Physical changes including increased ventricular volume and also atrophy due to irreversible loss of neuron and synapses. So you need to remember these words, irreversible. Means, they'll not come back. If you're lost, they're lost. Then you have increased oxidative damage, you have chronic neural inflammation, and you have myelin deterioration. Some of them change actually the cause of the brain aging, some of them actually the consequence of brain aging. But overall, you can see this contribute to the irreversible neural degeneration. Okay, now you have metabolic change here. You see reduced glucose utilization, reduced cellular metabolism, calcium dysregulation, impaired mitochondrial function, and declined cellular repair mechanism. So you can see because the change is not reversible, that means you should not wait until you have dementia or MCI, then you take action. That's too late. So what you do is the time to action is now, because you are here, you still remember what you're doing, you can still have logical thinking. That's the time you can start take actions to try to preserve your brain. So basically, you want to put the brake, slow down the atrophy, right? So how do we do that? So we started, we said, okay, since for the heart disease, when you reduce the risk factor, you can effectively reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease. We actually said, okay, let's use a similar approach for the dementia, right? There's got to be some risk factors. So we actually did an extensive literature review, and we tried to find out what are the main risk factors associated with brain aging in people. And that time, 20 years ago, studying dog is pretty limited. So we identified a list of risk factors related to brain aging or dementia in people. Then we look at, okay, how we use nutrition to address those things. That's all we came up with, we called, go back. We came up with, we called the brain supporting nutrients. So you have the arginine, antioxidant, B vitamin, omega-3. So you can see it's a very common nutrients, but what we do is we tweak the nutrient level to optimize we think we optimize the level in the diet. Another one, we use MCT to address the reduced glucose metabolism. So that's our two innovation. I think many of you may be familiar with MCT. I think the brain supporting nutrients might be a little bit less known for you guys, but that's also critical important, because if you think about studying rodent, when the formulation in rodent, they actually put the vitamin and mineral mix in the formula. So the rodent have no deficiency of those nutrients. That's why they put the ketogenic diet. You still see benefit. But in human, you can see, if you look at what you eat in the past, look at the it's not balanced diet, not complete balanced diet. So that's why the human, a lot of research is pretty conflicting results. Sometimes you show benefit, sometimes you didn't show benefit. Okay, with that, and I just want to go through how we develop our innovations. And the first one is, okay, so the brain is very metabolic active. It's pretty tiny organ, it's only 2 to 3% of body weight, but account for about 25% the whole body glucose consumption. That's pretty heavy. Okay, so you have 3 energy sources for the neuron: glucose and lactate and the ketone bodies. But lactate actually came from glucose metabolism. So imagine if neuron can only utilize glucose and lactate, we are not going to sustain our brain for too long, right? We will run out of the glycogen, the glucose. We start to mobilize our muscle, then we are in the downhill. Luckily, we can use ketones. Keep that in mind. Okay, so this shows what happened with aging. You can see with this study done actually published in 1983. You can see that this publication look at the metabolic rate of glucose in different regions of the brain. You can see the frontal cortex. First, you can see the frontal cortex much more active than hippocampus. But you can see also, compared with 1 year old, you see decline of the metabolic rate for glucose. And especially at 6 years, okay. At this stage, the dog has not suffered severe brain atrophy yet. So reduction of the glucose metabolism at this age cannot be explained by loss of neurons or structures. And here you can see at 14 years old, this can be contribute to both neuron loss and changing metabolism. But here it's mostly due to aging-induced metabolism. So with this, and you can see that you further increase glucose doesn't help, because the dog have normal glucose in the blood, neurons simply cannot utilize them well. So the only option is what? Ketone bodies. So, okay, so how we increase ketone bodies? Three methodology. First one is free. Basically, you just starving yourself. You can achieve ketone body, but you cannot starve yourself forever, right? It's a very short-term opportunity. Second one is the traditional ketogenic diet. As Dr. Kotopassi mentioned, okay, it's not a good option for dogs, because dogs actually high-fat diet increase pancreatitis. So then the only option is MCTs. And you can see that MCT actually naturally found in coconut oil and palm kernel oil. And it has 6 to 12 carbon and provide 6.8 calorie per gram. It's more water-soluble than long-chain triglycerides, and readily hydrolyzed in small intestine and do not require bile for digestion to medium-chain fatty acid. So that's the other difference. So readily digestible without bile. And also, the medium-chain fatty acid actually can enter mitochondria independent of the carnitine shuttle. That means you can eat your cake, dessert, candy, chocolate, you still produce ketones. Okay, that's the beauty of MCT. So this is how the MCT actually metabolized in the body, in the intestine, convert to medium-chain fatty acids, and travel through portal vein to liver. So that's pretty fast, very short travel distance. Then convert to ketone. Ketone cross the blood-brain barrier to get to the neuron for the energy. So with this, we said, okay, that's sounds like a plan. Let's start to a proof concept. So we look at the MCT. Said, okay, there are 4 different MCTs. They're not equally ketogenic. So based on literature, C6, CAC10 actually ketogenic, regardless of carbohydrate intake or energy intake, okay? And do not support hepatic liver accumulation. This is done in rodent. But C12 is different. C12 is less ketogenic, and if you eat the carbohydrate or eat the excessive calorie, the liver actually accumulates fat, so it's not good. So to this lesson, people ask me, can I use coconut oils for the same benefit? The answer will be no. You need to use CAC10 or C6 for the benefit. Okay, when we have that decision, we start to do the study. First study, we want to show that the MCT can increase ketones after meal chronically. So you can see we actually feed dogs for 240 days. We actually use the common super premium diet. We just replace some of the LCT with MCT. So they have identical protein, fat, carbohydrate ratio. But you can see that blue is a control. Definitely is not ketogenic, right? It's flat. But you can see even after long-term feeding, the MCT actually increase this is 2 hours after meal. Is high ketones in the blood. And this tell you, okay, this can be a long-term solution for pets. Okay, so now we said, okay, let's do some proof concept. So, okay, we did the first study. We showed that the MCT actually can enhance spatial learning, concept learning, attention memory, and the executive functions. The benefit actually visible within 30 days. It's very quick. We published. And then we actually use a similar model to test the brain supporting nutrients. We have a similar results. And okay, now we have a solution for senior dogs without dementia. So we launched the Bright Mind formula in US and other regions. You can look for, if you want your dog, keep the brain without get dementia. Okay, then we said, okay, how about can we actually help dog with dementia? What do? We actually combine the MCT and the brain supporting nutrients. We did a clinical study. You can see that definitely that actually help. So the nutrient actually can improve the function of existing structures. Even they lost a lot, but they still have some structure. The function actually enhanced with our combination. So that's the part of NeuroCare launch. And now, this is a new one we haven't shared with we not published. And one of the feedback for consumer is that said that dog actually become more active. We said, is that is a perception or is it real? So we actually did a study. You can see we have beagles. We actually feed them the control diet for 5 days. We measure the baseline activities. Then we actually switch to the M6 diet for 28 days. Then we measure activity again. So you can see we divide into daytime and nighttime activity. Okay, you can see, okay, baseline, the animal actually have about 80,000 steps or activities. But you can see during the 1 month feeding, that increased to 105,000. So that's real. The animal become more active. This is spontaneous activity. But the good news is that you can see there's no impact on nighttime activity. Okay, you don't want your dog become crazy at night, wake you up. So basically, dog actually is pretty normal at the nighttime. They actually increase activity during daytime. And then we look at, okay, how soon that we can see the benefit. We compare the first 5 days. You see the, just 5 days, you see the increased activities. Okay, it's pretty fast. So I think pretty much why the activity is important, because increased activity actually can have a better cognitive outcome and reduce the risk of dementia. Okay, and that's the conclusion. And I think time is up. So thank you for your attention.